What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, in today's video, we are going to give an update on Solana from the last video. I'm going to let you guys know exactly what I'm looking for and expecting over the next few days, because I do believe that a strong bounce or strong move to the upside or downside is extremely likely within the next couple of days here. So with that said, let's not waste any time at all, and let's get straight into today's video. Now, looking at Solana, one thing that we've been covering over the last few days were these zones of confluence. I said that each one of these levels at $81, $58, and $42 are the steps that we are going to need to take to get back to seeing some actual strong growth to the upside. I said until we clear all of these, I'm not getting extremely bullish. But as we do clear each one, I'm getting more and more bullish. Now, what I told you guys in the last video was to pay attention to $42.40, this level right here. Okay, and as we were approaching it before the last video, I said if we're able to clear this level, we will then have set the new local higher high off of this one, higher high, and we can finally start to establish that we are possibly in an uptrend, right? Maybe this was the bottom, and maybe we are finally looking to start to see some growth, or at least some stronger relief rally to the top side in which we can take profits or do something of that nature. Now, as we can see, the price of Solana came right up to this key zone of confluence of $42.41 and got a bounce to the downside. Now, this is no surprise, right? We can see that we did see resistance here, support establishment here, support establishment here. We got resistance back here, resistance here, we got some support here. So this 42.41 level has historically been a key level of resistance. We can also see here that on the hourlies, as we did approach that 42.41 level, let's go here, boom. What you can see is that as we approached it, the RSI started to trend downwards, but we were unable to clear it. That's a key sign that we're running out of momentum and likely to roll back to the downside here. And if we just look at something like the 4-hour RSI, it's a very similar story, right? We hit it. The 4-hour RSI immediately started to pull to the downside, and then so did the price, right? So we can see that as this got overextended to the top side and we hit overbought on the 4-hour RSI, we then started to get rejected to the downside. And now the final thing we could have looked at to see that this was going to likely happen was the Bollinger Bands. Of course, we did hit the top side of our daily Bollinger Bands here, and historically when we do hit the top side of our daily Bollinger Bands, we will pull to the downside, right? You can see here, and here, and even up here. I mean, this was a drag to the top side, but you can see the point that every time we hit this top side, more often than not, we get these pulls to the downside, right? So overall, what I will say is that currently, seeing the fact that we are getting a bit of a pull to the downside isn't anything that I'm too concerned about. This was somewhat expected, right? But now it becomes a game of deciding, well, are we just getting a pull to the downside that'll be followed by the higher low in continuation, or is this the complete collapse where we're going to do something of this nature and then continue down to some of these lower levels? Well, personally speaking, I'm looking for the higher low. I think that there's a strong possibility we set the higher low just based off some indicators, and I'm going to tell you all exactly what I'm going to do to confirm it. But some of the indicators that are giving me the feeling that we could see another bounce towards the upside is specifically the 4-hour charts. If we look at the 4-hour charts, one thing you can see is a strong drive of bullish divergence, in which we have the low. Currently looking to set the higher low, while we have already set the lower low. Here we go. We have already set the lower low on the 4-hour RSI. So realistically, as long as we set a low above $35, we are going to see this bullish divergence play out. And historically, whenever we do start to see bullish divergence of this nature, we will usually see that bounce to the upside. It usually says that the bears have succeeded in changing momentum and pulling the price down, but they did not do a successful enough job to completely change the momentum to the point that we enter into a downtrend by setting the lower low. And for that reason, usually the bulls will step back in around some of these lower levels as the bears get exhausted, pushing this back up, which will likely drive this back into a continuation of its uptrend. We can see another good example of this. The last example that we've seen of this was in March of 2022. Of course, whenever we did see this low, higher low, low, lower low here on the RSI, and after that we saw this solid push to the upside that was, looking about 80%. Okay, so the last time we saw a drive of bullish divergence of this nature, we saw this huge push to the upside. So of course I am going to go off of history and say that this is still a possibility here. Now, so what I'm looking for is that, okay, well, if I think that there could be that drive to the upside. We're looking at the possibility of getting this bull cross here on the 4-hour MACD as well. With all of these bullish indicators flashing, where is the level of confirmation to say, okay, we're actually making that move? Well, personally speaking, I'm looking at this $35 level as support, okay? Now, the reason I think $35 is going to be the support level that is going to be the most important is because first and foremost, we do have what could be considered a W bottom here, with that being the mid-level of resistance. What that is, the MLR, is if you have a W, this point of resistance is the most important part. Once you clear that, you're usually off to the races, right? Now, considering this is the key level of resistance, it would be the key level of support as well, right? We immediately back tested it here, but we may need to come back to back test it again. If you look at the 20-day simple moving average, it's also running directly on this key level of support here. Both of those things tell me that if we can bounce off of this and hold it, we're very likely continuing to the upside. Now, at any given point that we do see a strong bounce of that nature and we get back above 42.41, we actually would be enacting on this inverse head and shoulders here, which does have a fantastic breakout target. If we just take the distance from this neckline all the way to the bottom of the head and you apply it to your neckline again, one thing you can see is that that does give us a break up target to about $70.52, which is looking like a possible gain of around 80%, very similar to the last time we did have a drive of bullish divergence of this nature. So it is always something to consider, right? So personally speaking, what I'm going to say is that as long as we're above 35 and we work our way back above 42, we're looking good. If anytime we see a bounce of this nature, even off of the, the 35 level of this nature, and we break 42, I am going to be going long and buying, expecting that we will at least push to the next zone of confluence of $58, which looks like a growth here of somewhere around 35%. Okay, I think that's the very likely next move if we do get a push of this nature, right? But if at any given point we do lose $35, I will make a video immediately because I do believe that puts us in a position to come revisit the bottom side at 28.49. And at that point, we would really have to start paying attention because the loss of that level likely leads us back down to the low 20 range, okay? So the range you need to be on the lookout for right now is $42 and $35. If we break $42, we're looking real good for continuation, and I am going to go long with the stop loss set with, right around this $36 level, okay? But if we do lose this level here, boom, and we break below 35, I am expecting us to see 30 again. I'm likely expecting us to see the 28 level again, and so there could be a short trade to be made there, but I will update you all in a video on what that short trade looks like and exactly how I'm going about it. So make sure you do not miss that video simply by turning on notifications and subscribing to the channel. I think that right now, although the market's not moving much, there are some amazing gains to be made on the bounces and on the falls by shorting. And so for that reason, I'm going to try to update you all as soon as I can when anything important does happen. And all you got to do is just turn on notifications to stay tuned. But with that said, if you do want access to every trade I do, as well as every single thing I give as an investor, I do have a Patreon. It is down below. Feel free to check it out if you like. But if not, I will update you on here very soon, and I will see you all next time. Peace.